In yet another lawsuit against embattled rapper Sean Combs, a woman claims that she was lured into traveling to an exclusive Diddy party through a radio contest only to be assaulted and wake up in the hospital. We're going to break down this bombshell new lawsuit for you in the continuing Sean Combs legal saga. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, it's another day and another Sean Diddy Combs lawsuit to break down. And the first thing that I noticed about this lawsuit, which was filed, by the way, in federal court in New York, this is in the Southern District, this is the same jurisdiction where Combs is being prosecuted criminally for federal sex trafficking, racketeering, and prostitution charges. The first thing that I noticed about this lawsuit is that the plaintiff here identified herself. Yeah, so unlike many other lawsuits that Sean Combs has faced since he was first sued by his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura back in 2023, many of these people filed anonymously. In fact, the lawsuit that Jay-Z is facing right now in a joint lawsuit with Sean Combs, that is an anonymous Jane Doe. This lawsuit, this accuser here, has identified herself, and she has identified herself as Latroya Grayson. Few things to note here. Number one, first of all, for her to come out publicly against Sean Combs, it's a big thing, right? It's a big thing, not easy to do. Second of all, I wonder again, as we've seen in other lawsuits where you have Jane and John Does trying to proceed anonymously in their cases against Sean Combs, this just could be another example. Well, here's another accuser who filed a lawsuit against Sean Combs, revealed her identity. You don't have enough grounds, you don't have enough reasoning for you to proceed anonymously. But also it seems to me, because you are seeing a number of those lawsuits where the courts have said that these Jane Does have to reveal their identities, she may have said, I'm just going to skip that step. If I'm going to sue Sean Combs, I'm going to identify myself. Okay, now let's talk about the lawsuit. When she filed this lawsuit against Sean Combs, she didn't just name him as a defendant. She also named Bad Boy Entertainment, Atlantic Records, Mike Savis, who is described as an employee of Atlantic, Delta Airlines, an Oklahoma radio station called Kaye Jams 105.3 FM, the Roger Smith Hotel in New York, and others. And I will explain how they are all put together in this complaint. Now, the first part of this complaint kind of sets the stage, the timeline. It talks about Cassandra Ventura's lawsuit, talks about how other lawsuits came out after she filed hers, all against Sean Combs, talks about his arrest, his denial of bond, and then it says this. Plaintiff now alleges she too is one of the many victims of defendants Combs and the other defendants named herein. Plaintiff can support her allegations and has suffered extreme emotional distress impacting nearly every aspect of plaintiff's life and personal relationships. Given all the brave individuals who have come forward against defendant Combs, plaintiff is also doing the same. So who is Latroya Grayson? Well, apparently she is a resident of Oklahoma who says that when she was 23 years old back in 2006, she was assaulted. So according to her, back in 2006, that is when Kaye Jams, this radio station, began promoting a contest that was sponsored by Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Atlantic and Delta. And the contest offered a winner of an all-expenses-paid vacation for two to New York City to attend one of the infamous Diddy white parties. Sounds like a great thing, right? And Grayson explains that she and her sibling entered this contest and her sibling won. That included apparently round-trip airfare for the winner and a guest, brought her along, a hotel room, 2 white party tickets, the whole shebang. But Grayson says this wasn't a typical white party. Rather, it turned out to be a promotional party. And also, she says it was really strange because the date was rescheduled without any kind of warning or explanation. And it was also changed from a white party to a black party. So, okay, so now you're seeing kind of difference in how it was being marketed to what the actual gift or prize was. Now, throughout this complaint are photographs, and one of the photographs is what purports to be a letter from Atlantic with instructions on how to attend the party, and also photographs of what appear to be the plane tickets. So Grayson says she and her sibling, they go to New York City, which, by the way, neither she nor her sibling had ever been to before. They check into the Roger Smith Hotel, and embedded in the complaint is what appears to be a copy of the invoice or cash deposit from the hotel as well. Again, further evidence to show that all of this happened. From there, she claims that she was picked up in this transportation van that was arranged by the man I mentioned before, Mike Savvis from Atlantic. And by the way, from Delta to Roger Smith to Savvis, you can see how all of these different defendants, their roles in what is allegedly about to happen. And aside from the heinous accusations in these Diddy lawsuits, as a lawyer, as a legal analyst, I gotta say, there is really impressive lawyering going on in these filings. And whenever I think of that, how could I not mention another great set of attorneys, our partner, our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Look, here's the deal. If you get injured, you have to know what your legal rights are. You have to know if you can be compensated. And Morgan & Morgan, they have a dedicated team of over 1,000 attorneys. They have case specialists, paralegals, investigators. They have an incredible track record of multi-million-dollar verdicts and settlements. Even if your case isn't worth millions of dollars, they will fight for what you deserve. There's no upfront fee. They only get paid if you get paid. The whole process can be done right from your smartphone. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. Now, going back to this transportation van, Grayson says in this van were all the other contest winners from other cities. She says when they arrived at this party, not everybody was let in. No, they were judged based on their attractiveness. Only the attractive people would be let into this party. And that is important because she claims she was let into the party, her sibling was not. Essentially meaning she was alone. Now, as further evidence that she had won this contest, took the trip, went to the party, embedded in this complaint are what appears to be photos that she took with celebrities at the party, including rappers Babs and Bone Crusher. And here is where everything takes a turn. I'm going to read directly from the complaint. Well, at the party, there was no bar for partygoers to get drinks. Instead, pre-made drinks were being circulated throughout the party by waitresses. After less than 2 pre-made drinks provided by the waitresses, plaintiff began to feel sick and tried to go to the restroom. By the way, this echoes what we have seen before with other allegations of Sean Combs. The allegation that he had sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl, by the way, back in 2000 at a VMA's after party. I believe in that complaint, it was that she had just taken a drink that was being offered and all of a sudden began to get sick. Moving on. The next memory plaintiff has is awaking at St. Vincent's Medical Center of New York. Photographs of the statement of account from that medical center and a hospital ID band, again, appear to be embedded in the complaint as well. It goes on. Plaintiff has no memory or no recollection on how she ended up at the hospital. When plaintiff regained consciousness at the hospital, she noticed her shirt was ripped, her underwear was missing, she was not wearing any shoes, and the money she had traveled with was stolen. The only money plaintiff had remaining was a $20 bill. Plaintiff was admitted to the St. Vincent's Hospital, treated, and released. And she explains that when she was released, she was a tourist. She had never been to New York City before. There were no smartphones, so she really couldn't figure out how to get back to her hotel. She claimed she had to hail a taxi and use the only money she had left, the $20 bill, to get her back. The complaint goes on. When plaintiff returned to her hotel, she called a friend and explained she was not sure what happened to her, but plaintiff believed she was drugged, assaulted, robbed, with no memory of how she arrived at the hospital, as her last memory was being at Diddy's black party. And then she claims she ends up flying back home. But then, this is where things take yet another turn. The complaint reads, the day after plaintiff returned home from New York, she received a call from a New York area code with an anonymous female caller. The anonymous female caller asked to speak to plaintiff. The anonymous female caller then threatened plaintiff, telling her that any attempts to pursue anything about plaintiff's assault would be futile because defendant Combs was a celebrity and that plaintiff would just be wasting her time. Plaintiff was confused and scared as she did not know what happened to her. Plaintiff, hearing from this anonymous female caller, was further jarring and traumatizing as plaintiff learned that not only was she viciously assaulted, leading to her waking up at the hospital, but that defendant Combs was involved, and plaintiff would be unable to seek justice for her injuries because of defendant Combs' celebrity status. And then it goes on to say for approximately a week after she had returned home, she felt this constant pain in her private area. and it's pain that she believed was from rough sexual intercourse. But again, she says she has no memory of engaging in intercourse with anyone. The complaint goes on to say, plaintiff did not seek medical treatment or otherwise report her assault to law enforcement because she was scared and confused. First, because she did not know exactly what happened to her. Second, because of the threats she received from the anonymous female caller of defendant Combs' involvement, and it being a waste of time due to his celebrity status. And then she goes on to explain how, as a result of what happened to her, she suffered from depression, anxiety, she has felt shame, she felt betrayed by all those who facilitated her attending this party, and as a result, she says, she hasn't been able to keep a job or be a productive member of society, that she's experienced intimacy issues. This is a harm component that's important in these kinds of lawsuits. What did you suffer? It's important for a damages analysis. And she says the reason that she filed this lawsuit now, so many years later, is because Sean Combs is currently locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center with no bond, that she finally feels safe to come forward. Okay, before we move forward, I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, from a legal point of view, the weaknesses in this case, in this claim, are that she doesn't remember anything. That includes not only the alleged assault or what exactly happened to her, but even her meeting or having any interaction with Sean Combs. She is basing this off what someone else allegedly told her. Her hospital visit, the pain she felt, yes, that's important. But can you tie it back to Sean Combs? There is clearly, evidence based on her account. Her hospital visit, the pain she felt, you could say that is evidence of sexual assault for sure. But again, can she prove that it was directly tied back to Combs, that he did this? And look, of course, episodes like this are very common in assault cases where the victim or alleged victims, they don't remember anything, particularly if they'd been drugged. But in a court of law, that could be an issue. Now, on the other hand, if she is being portrayed as someone who is just making this up to go after Sean Combs, that this is another payday, couldn't she have made up details that were more helpful to her case, that were more beneficial? Couldn't she say, yeah, I remember Combs came into the room, he did this, he did that? No. The fact that she says, this is what I remember, this is what I don't remember, and then recounts just this bizarre alleged phone call, perhaps that makes this story even more credible. Plus, on top of the photographs of the different parts of this trip, that will help. She also explains, this is why I never came forward earlier, as why a lot of people didn't come forward earlier. It took something for him being locked up in a detention center for me to feel comfortable about coming forward. Also, from a legal point of view, it may become an issue to tie all of the negative things that have happened to her in her life to this alleged assault. Could be an issue, something that I think the defense would explore if this goes to trial. Now, let me go into what the causes of action or claims are in this complaint, what she's suing for. The first is a RICO or racketeering claim. So aside from the fact that Sean Combs is being criminally charged with racketeering conspiracy, we haven't seen one of these in a lawsuit against Diddy in a while. I remember that Sean Combs' former producer, Rodney Little Rod Jones, he filed under a RICO claim in his cause of action. He claims that he was sex trafficked and assaulted by Sean Combs. So this is an interesting cause of action. And racketeering is about a criminal enterprise or series of illegal activity. And as she lays out in this complaint, one category is dealing in obscene matter. Now here, Grayson says that all the defendants are 100% liable for what Combs allegedly did to her, that they financially benefited from Combs, that they provided him with the resources he needed to do this, and they didn't investigate or monitor him. The complaint reads, the support provided by the RICO orchestrators to defendant Combs was a lifeline that spearheaded and maintained the defendant Combs' depraved actions. Upon information and belief, the establishment of a business relationship with a prominent record label, Atlantic, prominent common carriers, Delta and Roger Smith Hotel, allowed for a distribution platform for all defendant Combs' business endeavors to disguise his true intentions with overly broad and vague in nature descriptions of activities. Defendants knew or should have known that defendant Combs had no intention to utilize the resources he received for business-related purposes, and they did not put any mechanism in place to ensure that their resources, specifically their publication, were not being used for any illegal activity. Defendant's willful blindness resulted in plaintiffs suffering the harm detailed herein. And there was this idea that the criminal enterprise, these activities cross state lines. And it reads, the defendants have unlawfully increased their profits by luring and deceiving individuals such as plaintiff under false pretenses for defendants' personal desires, deviances, and gain. That there was a common purpose to enrich themselves at the expense of people like Miss Grayson. And all the defendants were direct participants in this fake marketing scheme surrounding a safe and fun party for people to attend. But Grayson was allegedly abused there. This was their fault. This was all an illegal conspiracy or agreement. And she even claims that there were multiple acts of wire and mail fraud as evidence of this RICO enterprise by distributing marketing materials and contest instructions and secure wires and cash payments, all to, again, allegedly lure in unsuspecting victims like plaintiff. Now, as part of this claim, Grayson is not only seeking a variety of damages to compensate her, but also, and this was interesting, she is requesting that she be granted an incentive or service award. So we usually see this in litigation, particularly in class action cases, where a court will reward a plaintiff for the work that they did in the case, understanding the risks that they took in bringing this case. She's also suing for assault and battery, negligent hiring, training, supervision, and retention on the part of Bad Boy, Atlantic, and Kaye Jams for employing people that allowed this alleged misconduct to happen. She's suing for negligence and that everyone owed Grayson a legal duty of care, negligent and intentional infliction of emotional distress, which are very kind of broad, all-encompassing claims, either engaging in conduct likely to result in emotional distress, or its conduct is so extreme that it just goes beyond the levels of human decency. And finally, she is suing, and this is the one we've seen before, she is suing under the New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. We've seen this in other lawsuits. And this complaint actually does a good job of explaining what that is. So this law created a 2-year look-back window from March 2023 until the end of February, March 2025, for survivors of gender-motivated violence to sue their abusers for claims that would otherwise be time-barred. Sexual assault is a form of gender-motivated violence. The idea here, allegedly drugging and assaulting Grayson at a party thrown for a radio contest winners, is a crime of violence that was committed because she was a woman, and there is a degree of animus towards women, and that is evidenced by a lack of consent. So aside from a plethora of damages for each claim in the award that I mentioned before, Grayson is also in this lawsuit seeking a judgment that declares all the defendants engaged in unlawful practices. Now, in response to this reportedly $15 million lawsuit, a statement on behalf of Combs was issued to Fox News Digital, and it reads, Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone or engaged in sex trafficking. Ms. Grayson admits she has no memory of the events alleged in her complaint, does not know who was supposedly involved, and has never spoken to Mr. Combs. Her allegations against him are pure fiction. As we've said before, Mr. Combs cannot respond to every baseless lawsuit and lawyer-driven money grab. He has faith in the judicial process in which fact will be separated from opportunistic fabrications like these. By the way, before we end things, so Grayson is being represented by Ariel Mitchell. This is somebody that we've interviewed here on Sidebar. She is somebody who's represented other Sean Combs accusers. And as you may recall, she also represents Courtney Burgess, who reportedly testified in front of a grand jury, apparently hearing new evidence in Sean Combs' criminal case. Burgess claimed that he had in his possession multiple sex tapes of Combs and celebrities. So this is a big development, another big lawsuit. We will see where this goes. But that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.